Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Binge Chickens. We're back for another episode. This week, we're casting our minds all the way back to a season of a television show that came out back in 2005. It's the first series of the revived Doctor Who series. And with me to discuss the show, I have Lo. How are you, Lo?
I'm good, thanks. Excited to talk about some old school Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Not really, not even old school, middle school Doctor
Middle
Who.
school, yeah. Because just to give some context, I guess we've been watching all of the classic Doctor Who, starting from the Third Doctor, from about halfway through last year.
Yeah.
I think, and we're all the way up now to the modern era with Christopher Ecclestone and Billy Piper, which was a really good season. We got through that in maybe 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, we well and truly binged it.
Yes, so true to our name, we have binged through that season. Before we dive into particular episodes that maybe we liked or didn't like, I wanted to get your thoughts on the season as a whole and how it worked for you as bringing Doctor Who back to our screens after a 16-year, well, I guess technically a 16-year absence, but then we had that movie as well, so 9 years since the movie. But how did you think it worked bringing things back?
It was good. Like, I watched the whole series when it aired in 2005, which I was not necessarily a Doctor Who fan prior to that. I had watched episodes here and there as a kid with my grandfather. And so it's not like it's something I knew of, didn't really. But I really enjoyed getting into the series. I think this really solidified that this is a show that I was going to enjoy and keep watching, which I have done since 2005. I think, Chris Ecclestone was a really engaging Doctor. I was obsessed with Rose. I still am, as a companion. So yeah, it was good. What about you? What did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was really good, and I guess growing up, Christopher Eccleston in a way was my Doctor. I guess you can't really be too much when it's only 1 year, but he was certainly, I can claim that maybe he gave me inspiration for wanting to wear a leather jacket all the time. So we can blame him for the very 90s or retro look that I like to sport with that. But
yes.
Yeah, look. Great season. I guess my lasting memory of watching that first episode for the first time was having sort of back in 2002, 2003, ABC showed all the old episodes. And so I'd really got into that, sort of like we have in the last year. And watching that first episode of Rose, I was like, oh, this is like a new show. This is like a proper new sort of modern show, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, it was. It was. I don't remember how old were we in 2005?
30.
Oh, holy crap!
Yeah.
I, as a 13-year-old, I really enjoyed it. As a 29-year-old now, still really enjoy it. So it has lasted. It's got longevity. So it
holds up really well. Like some of the effects aren't fantastic, but on the whole, I think it. I watched. Yeah,
I was gonna say, we did just get through the OJ series, which had even more questionable effects. So yeah.
No, yeah. Because I was going to ask you, Christopher Ecclestone, I guess we've seen John Pertwee, Tom Baker, Peter Davidson, Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, and Paul McGann in the role. Do you think he sits comfortably with those? Does he feel like a very natural sort of Doctor to bring the show back?
100%, yeah. As I said to you when we finished watching that last episode, I'm baffled as to why. I know there's apparently things going on behind the scenes, but why he didn't come back, because he did such a good job of being the Doctor. He just brought like a lot of energy to it, as well as a lot of kindness. I felt he was a fantastic Doctor. So the fact that he only did one series is kind of really. I did that on purpose. It's kind of really disappointing that he only did one series.
And so then I guess talking about the series as a whole, it had a lot of heavy lifting to do in terms of bringing the show back to our screens. And one of the really interesting elements that it introduced was this concept of the Time War and the Doctor being the last Time Lord left. And, in theory, no Daleks left either. But of course, we find out that's not the case. What did you make of this sort of I guess, shift in the narrative or the story of Doctor Who's history of having this great time war, and now there being no other Time Lords left. Do you think it really gave a sort of fresh angle to the show?
Yeah, I feel like it meant that they can kind of start fresh um, from the old series. So it is really, I mean, it is the new series. So that revival, I guess, allowed for that continuation of the character of Doctor Who and the TARDIS and all of that, but also that breakaway from what was happening in the original series.
Mm. And then I mean, look, I found it really interesting. Like, I can't quite remember how I reacted to it at the time, but I guess I wouldn't call it a cliche, but it's very much a trope where you look at Star Wars with Luke being the last Jedi, and other sorts of shows where they have this great sort of mystical race, and it's reduced to this one, like Avatar: The Last Airbender, which I finished watching
Yeah,
recently, and these sorts of concepts of it's all the hopes resting on this one person, and so yeah, it works with Doctor Who. It kind of elevates the show a little bit
yeah. I
in
guess
that
it
sense as well.
heightens the drama as well. That if you've got the
Mm,
last of something, you're going to want to keep it around. You're not going to want anything to happen to it. And we know that without the Doctor, a lot of places would
would be worse
have,
off.
yeah, it would be worse off. And like same, we talk about like Last Airbender and stuff. Like they actively work. The series is all about working for him and keeping him, alive and getting him to do what he needs to do.
Yeah.
Can you tell I didn't actually watch it with you? I
Yeah.
chimed in here and there and was just like, oh yeah, cool. So yeah, I don't actually, yeah, no, but that idea of that last, yeah, and even with the Last Jedi, it's keeping this magic or idea alive, I guess.
Definitely. And so I guess that sort of flows into the sort of the story arc that we got for this season, being Bad Wolf. And I guess almost, I mean, it's not quite the first time we've seen a season arc or a kind of continuous story in Doctor Who. I mean, we got the what is it called? The Key of Time with Tom Baker, and then the Trial of the Time Lord with Colin Baker.
That was an
Um,
interesting one, yeah.
things like that. So we have had those sorts of overarching plots in Doctor Who before, but this one was a really subtle one. And us kind of rewatching it, we can look back and know what to look out for to see all the references to Bad Wolf throughout the season. But watching it at the time, I reckon up until that, it's Boomtown, I think, where they first deliberately call attention to it. When when the Doctor notices the name of the project that the Slovene is working on, and he says,
Yeah.
these words are following. But as you said before about Christopher Ecclestone, like, he's such a great actor, and he sort of gets very serious. And when he's serious, he's very solemn and very serious and very gripping. And then he just goes, "No, it's probably just a coincidence." It's
Yeah,
like when
I
you hear
enjoyed
something.
that scene.
Yeah. But so what did you make of having this sort of overall story arc, and do you think it was really effectively handled?
Yes, because I know when I um not originally watched it, but probably originally rewatched it and was aware of the arc. Like I was actively looking for um Bad Wolf. I mean, this time I think I've rewatched this series enough now that it's just like, oh yeah, it's Bad Wolf.
Mm,
Um, but I think it's a nice way to tie it all together because it really is that message from Rose traveling through space, and it is there for every adventure to grab their attention. Um, so it's effective. It's good.
yeah.
It's a nice arc because it doesn't impact the stories themselves. I think this is why I enjoy this arc. It's not like some of the more recent arcs where every episode like is explicitly linked to the arc. This is very subtle. And I know we
The
even
Matt's
had
yeah. The Matt
that
Smith arcs were
episode.
definitely much more, crack of time and stuff, which were much more impacting.
Yeah, I like that it was there and like it's noticeable, but at the same time, it didn't interfere with the actual adventures that were going on. Like
Mm,
even when they went to Station 5 originally, Satellite 5, sorry, not Station 5, Satellite 5. Um, it still didn't like introduce that as the broadcasting center. It still didn't interfere too much with that storyline.
yeah.
if at all. So even though we were already taken to the place where the finale happens, like it was still separate. If that makes
And
sense.
I think, yeah. And I think it's very sweet as well that like sort of the ultimate, the explanation for the mystery is it's Rose scattering these words through time to connect her and the Doctor so that she can get back to him. And I'm like, oh, it's kind of sweet. It's not
sweet.
sinister or anything.
Yeah, I always wondered why the words bad wolf.
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure I've looked this up before, but whatever.
Is it something, and actually maybe appropriately linked to the promotion image that we've used on our episode of her wearing a red hoodie and something
actually, Little Red Riding Hood.
Could be. I don't know.
Yeah, that could be. That would make sense.
I don't quite. I'm not quite sure on because you're right. Like it seems like it should be
very,
sort of a sinister thing.
Symbolic there.
Yeah, I don't know. I literally just glanced to my right, saw her sit in the red hoodie, and went, "Oh, Red Riding Hood, maybe." But yes, of course, we know that she does come back in the 50th special as Bad Wolf, which is sort of her Eye of the TARDIS manifested version, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, look, I think it was a good arc. I think we're just starting to watch series 2 now, and that's another. I think these David Tennant arcs were much more. I mean, I guess probably the Master in series 3 was a bit more impacting on the plot, like you're saying, where it then had a direct twist and revelation for the finale. But even Torchwood in series 2 doesn't have a huge impact on the plot, which is probably a good thing in a way.
Yeah, I honestly have, like, I remember series 1 and series 2 so vividly. Series 3 and the rest of them start to get blurred. I don't know if maybe when I originally watched it, it just wasn't front of mind because, I mean, I know I had other stuff going on. But I know once we rewatch it, it'll probably come to front. But like, I remember the Master. I remember John Sim as the Master, he's so good as the Master. And like that finale episode, I remember quite vividly, but the rest of series 3, so I actually don't remember what the arc is. So
series 3 is Martha.
To.
Yeah.
Yes, I know it's
Martha.
And I can remember some Martha episodes, but not all of them. So
Shakespeare?
In terms of course, I watch that episode every year.
Jadoon on the moon as well. So there's a few,
Yes, actually, and when we first met the Jadoon, I think I probably remember the Catherine Tate episodes more than I remember Martha's, which is awful because I actually don't mind Martha.
And we're kind of jumping ahead here, but that Catherine Tate season, I remember at the time watching it and really not liking Catherine Tate's character, Donna. But on a rewatch, I think it's one of those seasons where you kind of think about each episode individually and you go, well, I really like that episode, and I really like that episode, and I really like that episode, and you realize, actually, hang on, I actually really like the whole season.
Well, that's what we like. Coming back to this first series, that's what we. This is why we binged it so quickly because we watched it. That was really good, and the next one started like, oh, we remember this one. This one's also really good. So I feel like it will be probably the same when we watch series 3, but I mean, overall, like I think these are really solid seasons. I mean, as I said, my memory is lapsing with most of them and as to what is where. But with the Ecclestone series, like every episode, it was like one I remember vividly. I mean, there was a few plot points I was like, oh, I don't remember that happening that you reminded me of, and I was like, okay, cool. But But
so on that note, I'll ask you, what was your favorite episode of the season and why?
Oh, I don't know. This is so hard. I know we talked about it the other night. Okay, I love the first episode as a way to reintroduce Doctor Who and introduce Ecclestone as the Doctor and introduce Rose. I genuinely think that is a brilliant episode. You've got the Autons, which are great. You've got that drama. You've got poor Jackie almost getting killed by the brides from the window. I just think it's like a very classic episode, and I really enjoyed that one. That being said, I also really enjoy and I feel like this is so obvious, the Empty Child and Dr. Dancer's episodes. There's just some good dialogue throughout both those episodes. We're not really keen on the mask fused to the face thing with the child, but it's also one of those episodes where there's a happy ending. Everyone lives.
Which is kind of ironic considering the reputation that Moffat gets after I guess during the Matt Smith era, that he just kills everyone off.
Yes. I know when we watched the episode and I was saying I was looking like I genuinely enjoy this double parter. And you're like, yeah, Moffat has written some of the best episodes in these earlier series, which I find very strange because I know the entire time that Matt Smith was the Doctor, I sat there complaining about Moffat. So I don't know, it's very conflicted.
Well, going back to Rose first of all,
yeah. So as you touched, your favorite episode?
Well, I was just gonna expand on your choices first of all, and then I'll offer mine. Mm-hmm. But going back to Rose first of all, as you say, we get the Autons back, and I think that was quite appropriate considering the fact that our first episode of the classic Who was John Pertwee facing the Autons as well, so it was a bit symbolic in that sense. Yes. One element of Rose that I think still causes a little bit of debate, and I'm curious to hear you weigh in on this, is, of course, Rose goes to try and investigate the Doctor and encounters, his name has gone out of my head, the guy that, Clive, that's it, who is sort of stocking up on a history of the Doctor and comes across images of him at the Titanic, at JFK's assassination. I think there's a few other references as well. We also get in one of the first scenes with him, he's sort of checking out his ears in the mirror at Rose and Jackie's apartment. So there's an implication that he's only just regenerated from John Hurt into Chris Ecclestone in this episode, essentially, just before this episode. But then we kind of get this idea that maybe he's gone on these other adventures. Do you see it as he's gone on all these adventures before the episode, or that he pops off during this episode, or it's at some point later, Rose is on a holiday with Mickey off somewhere and he's popping off on a few adventures himself?
Well, I was going to say, the beauty of the TARDIS is that you can travel through time as well as space. So, in those gaps between Rose meeting him and, the Doctor going off in the TARDIS, he has that time to go and have other adventures himself. But yeah, it's one of those odd things that it seems like he knows what he's doing, because he's you sometimes see these regenerations, the Doctors are a bit chaotic when they first.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, who was the super chaotic one from old Who?
Colin Baker.
Oh yeah,
Strangles
Psycho.
Perry.
That's nasty to my mind with regenerations. But even with there's a bit of confusion, I guess, and discombobulation with the Doctor when they regenerate, and he seems like a very confident Doctor, but then when he checks his ears out, it's like, is he just commenting on the fact that, I don't like my ears? Because that is something that does get scattered throughout, people commenting on the size of his ears. I think even
I like Rose and what's her name in Empty Child?
Nancy,
yes.
Yeah.
They look. It could be that he's just not had a chance to look in a mirror, or as you say, it's just every time he sees them, he's kind of caught off guard by the size of them. I don't know.
Yeah. So it's a bit vague. But as I said, he seems, when he meets Rose, he seems very sure of himself, which is not common when the Doctor's just regenerated. I mean, with David Tennant for that first, for the Christmas invasion, we know that he spends a lot of time being like, I don't know what type of man I am.
Yeah.
So, but maybe that's because of the nature of the episode of trying to, rather than have, I feel like they'd alienate a lot of viewers if they had him being very.
Well, Yeah, I mean, I said to you, it would have been really interesting
Confusing.
if they'd started this episode like they started the movie and had Paul McGann regenerate into Christopher Eccleston. That would have been, and I think they probably learnt their lesson from the movie that it might have been a bit too confusing to have the audience meet this character and then essentially kill him off in the first 5 minutes of the episode.
Yeah, I think it was a good like clean start, clean slate. He's our doctor. He's already the doctor. We don't need to establish that like that's who he is, because particularly I think again audiences bringing the show back after having like a long time off screen, and I'm sure a lot of people don't count the movie, or didn't at the time, or
Yeah, I
aren't
think
on board with the movie because it is its kind of own thing, which I didn't even realize that Sylvester McCoy was in it, but anyway, I think it was just that clean slate that we're going to start off with the doctor who is the doctor. We're not going to question it because then that will lead your audience to also question, is he the doctor? No, like you want to have a strong standing point.
I think it's
to
not
hook your
until
viewer in.
Sorry. Yeah. No, definitely. I was just going to say, I think it's not until the next Doctor, the David Tennant special with, is it James Morrissey? Where I think that's the first time that they use footage from the Doctor Who movie to sort of essentially confirm that it is actually part of the canon or part of the story. So up until then, I think there was a lot of debate about whether it counted because of the whole, my mother's heart, I'm human on my mother's side and things like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions that movie raises. I mean, it's good. I enjoy it, but at the same time, it's just like whoever wrote this, I feel like didn't have a strong understanding of Doctor Who, or just decided, stuff it. But then that's almost how I feel about Moffat. I know Moffat is the biggest Doctor Who fanboy, and I will sometimes watch some of his episodes and be like, do you even know this show?
Yeah. I think sometimes they just try to do new things and doesn't necessarily work. But
don't mess with the program when it works. Anyway.
But speaking of Moffat, your other favorite episodes you mentioned were The Empty Child and The Doctor Dances.
They're all my favorite.
I guess, what a few of Moffat's tropes sort of start to make appearances here, where we get, as you just said, he tries to sort of push out the boundaries on what's something cool that we could do that hasn't been done before. And the thing that he tries in this episode, which is kind of minor, but he has the phone ring in the TARDIS telephone box where the Doctor kind of realizes, this isn't meant to ring. It's not actually connected to anything, which it's kind of a neat little thing. And you kind of see in all these Moffat episodes that he'll always try little things to have some fun. The other one I really liked was when Nancy says that he has to go and see the doctor, and he looks really confused for a while. And there's that moment of wondering whether there's another version of him wandering around in the Blitz London.
Yeah. There's just the doctor, but I'm the doctor. That's all his face reads when she's like, you have to go see the doctor. And my other favorite part about those two episodes is that we get Jack.
I was going to say yes, and so of course Moffat
obsessed with Captain Jack. Yeah.
Which having just watched and reviewed Revelation of the Daleks, and that's on this channel, so if you're listening in, do go listen to that review if you haven't already. We get Jack back in that episode, but boy, is he so much younger in these episodes when we're first meeting him.
It's like, it's not even as a shock that he's so much older, because I follow him on Instagram. So it's like I see his face regularly, but then going back and watching these episodes, it's just like, not what happened, because John Barrowman's still a fine-looking man, but he was so young.
He fits in very well with the story as well. He's very much the sort of dashing, as it's also sort of set up in the episode with Rose saying that she wants the Doctor to be more Spock and use more tech gadgets and other things and be more professional. And then you get Jack with his invisible spaceship and his ray gun and all of that as well, which very much fits the picture.
Yeah, he does. He's a great character. Anyway, what are your favorite? Sorry, I don't even know what that was. I meant to say anyway. It came out as a weird noise. What were your favorite episodes?
Well, you pinched my idea of going with Rose because it had a lot going for it and having to reintroduce us to the show. But if I'm going to go for another episode other than that, I'm going to go with Father's Day, which is a bit left field because it's an episode I feel like often gets forgotten in this season because there are so many great episodes. But I'm really one that loves all those sorts of twisty sort of time concepts. And if I didn't know better, I would have said this was a Moffat episode because it feels like a Moffat episode in a lot of ways. I think it could be the first time that we ever see two different versions of the Doctor. Well, I think there's that one brief moment with the third Doctor, but with this where we see the Ninth Doctor and Rose watching Rose's father getting hit by the car, and then there's another version of the Nine and Rose watching them, was kind of a cool little quirk. And of course we get baby Mickey, we get baby Rose, we get all of those. We get the reference to Only Fools and Horses, which is another show that we've watched recently. It's a really kind of...
Sorry. I love that she compares her dad to Del.
Yeah. Which I think, watching Rose, I think I compared Jackie in a way to Del, of sort of that sort of living in the council estate and all of that sort of thing. But look, I think it was a really fun episode. It's a cool little concept. We get the similar sort of concept to the Brigadier episode where there's the two versions of the Brigadier and they can't touch, and Rose can't touch baby Rose. But yeah, I thought it was quite fun. What did you think of it?
I was going to say that was probably another episode that I would have classed as not necessarily favorite, but one that I really enjoyed. And I think because I'm now older, it definitely hit me in the emotionally as well watching this. Which I don't think it did when I originally watched it. But no, I like the idea of them being back in time in Rose's own timeline, because it does bring up a lot of those questions about what happens when you are in your own timeline. But then also allows Rose to have those moments with her dad. And oh my God, baby Mickey. I did enjoy when Rose is like, I think I've just imprinted it on him like a mother. And I was like, this makes so much sense now. And when Jackie was like, I feel sorry for whoever ends up with him as he's older. Lots of little jokes like that. But even just the idea of the fact that they stuffed up time and then have to deal with the consequences. And the consequences aren't Rose disappearing or whatever. It's actual creatures that are there to almost like bacteria. What is it that white blood cells,
white blood cells,
fights infection in the body, same kind of thing, which is interesting. But yeah, that one hit me in the feels quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of get the episode framed with Rose telling the Doctor about the stories that Jackie used to tell her about her father and how he died, and we get the shift from the start of the episode where he died on his own on the road to at the end of the episode, Jackie saying that there was a girl that stayed with him and waited for the paramedics to come, so that he didn't die alone. Is a nice little shift, and as you say, it's a very emotional sort of episode. I think it was was it the episode before it? Because we got this episode about her father, and then there's another one just after, which is more about Jackie. I'm trying to remember what that one was that I'm thinking of. If you can help me, I can't. Oh no, I'm probably thinking. No, you know what? I'm probably thinking of The Empty Child because of the fact that that's more about the mother-son relationship.
Yes,
is probably what I'm thinking of.
With Nancy and Jamie. Yeah.
Yes, so we get a lot of parent-child sort of dynamic episodes in this season, which I thought was quite interesting. Which I guess it's sort of a trope of Doctor Who is, it's the kids watching it, and it's the kids sort of what's a fear from kids. It's not having their parents be there with them or whatever. So I think this season sort of focuses in on that as its theme, I guess.
I don't know. I don't know if there's a theme. I mean, they've got those episodes, but then you've got episodes like The Unquiet Dead, which had my favorite line of the whole series with the stiffs are being lively.
And we get introduced to Gwen's ancestor.
Yes.
And the Cardiff Rift, which sort of paves the way for Torchwood.
Yes.
And we get Dalek, which is another good episode.
Yeah, which I've talking about Dalek. I never really enjoyed that episode. It was always one, like, if I had to go through and, like, before rewatching it, going through and being like, which episodes I really, like, actually want to watch. And Dalek has never been on that rewatch list. But I really, again, I just really enjoyed it this time. And that the ability to make you actually feel empathy for a Dalek was a nice twist.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's a good prompt then, talking about episodes that you didn't like as much. What was the episode that you didn't like as much this season? What was your least favorite episode of the season?
I don't know. It's a very solid season. I do enjoy them all. I guess Boomtown has probably the least.
Keep stealing my answers. That's all right.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Like, I enjoyed Boomtown and the Return of Margaret. And I think there's a lot of quippy, funny lines in that episode. But in terms of actual events plot-wise, I think it's quite a tame episode.
I think it's definitely like it's a taster for the finale. It's very much setting up the finale.
Yeah. It is. It's a setup for the finale. Definitely, because it's when they've really, like, when the Doctor realizes that he's been seeing the words "bad wolf" everywhere, and then brushes it off. So we finally get that. But that's when we first get that acknowledgement. And then we also get that Margaret looking at the heart of the TARDIS, which is kind of that foreshadowing for Rose and the Doctor there as well. But I mean, it's a good episode. It's still a good episode. Like, it's funny. It's a funny episode.
And I was going to say, we get the dynamic. We get the 4-person dynamic of Mickey, Rose, Jack, and the Doctor, where Rose, Jack, and the Doctor have clearly gone on a few adventures in between picking Jack up. And what is it? Is this straight after the Doctor dances, or is there something in between? Because I'm trying to think. I don't think there's another adventure with Jack.
Doctor dances, yeah.
So I guess there's sort of an insert here gap where they've gone on a few adventures together because they've got that team dynamic going. And so this episode does have that quite cool team dynamic, which works quite well.
Yeah. I think sorry, I'm just thinking about what other episodes. The other episode, actually, I probably enjoyed Boomtown more than this one, is the long game, which sets up again for the finale. But just a bit boring. The Jaggerfest is just, yeah. I think I lost interest halfway through that one.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like the first time around watching the series, I didn't watch. There was 2 episodes I didn't watch: the Unquiet Dead and the Long Game. I think because I remember watching the finale at the time and not having that connection of, oh, well, we've been here before. But yeah, as you say, I think that Jaggerfest didn't really strike me as a very convincing villain and what they were trying to achieve. And as you say, I mean, look, it's interesting, as you say, that both episodes tying into the finale, both the Long Game and Boomtown, probably the weaker episodes, probably because they didn't feel like they didn't stand on their own. They were sort of just set up episodes.
Yeah. I feel like it was a waste of Simon Pegg as a character as well. Because he's so good in all the stuff that he does. So, I mean, I know he played the villain, but it was just really the villain. I mean, Adam's annoying.
Well, it's good. Yeah. I was going to mention Adam, and what did you think of Adam as a character?
Annoying and just unnecessary. I feel like they didn't need him. I mean, it was that funny bit at the end with the head thing that he had installed, but other than that, I feel like he wasn't a character that wasn't really necessary.
Yeah, I'd be kind of interested in understanding the behind-the-scenes reasoning on having, I guess, both Adam and then Jack later in the season become companions, where Adam, it was almost like, I don't know what the message was meant to be or what they were achieving with him coming along for a second adventure. Like, was there a chance at one point he was going to stay for longer and then it didn't work out? Or was it meant to just be like hey, look, not every companion is great and wonderful. Some of them are real dickheads who try and steal all the knowledge of the universe for their own personal gain. Maybe that's it. But yeah, it was a bit of a weird one.
Yeah, I feel like it was a kind of a lesson in there that someone trying to use the future for past gain and kind of referencing, I guess, like Back to the Future.
Yeah.
But I mean, it wasn't really, I guess, followed through on. Like, it was just very, I don't know. That's actually, yeah, I like, in comparison to Boom, like with these two, actually Boomtown's great. This one is very bleh. Yeah, I mean, I guess as well, having it as a news station, like if it was already that kind of reality TV idea, but not to the extreme as it is in is it Bad Wolf? Bad Wolf. It's called Bad Wolf. Sorry, I just double checked the episode. That it is in Bad Wolf, then like that would make more sense to me for it to be. Like, I don't understand the shift from, I guess, news to reality TV, but I guess it's also commentary on society, how we now value probably reality TV more than we do actual information and things like that.
Which is still just as relevant today as it was in 2005, let me tell you. And it's, like I said to you, it's quite funny and telling that those 3 shows in the Bad Wolf episode have all had somewhat of a revival since 2005, which is kind of bizarre to think.
Hey,
they're all back on the air.
What Not to Wear has not come back. I'm sad about that, because that was a show I actually enjoyed.
Yeah,
I'm obsessed
fashion
with Trini.
reality shows, and yeah,
she's all over Facebook at the moment, and I just love watching her videos.
I think I'd probably agree with you on least favorite episodes. I think the only thing I'd add as well is Aliens in London and World War III. I don't hate, but they're definitely the worst of Russell T Davies tropes, which is the whole we're stuck in London. There's an alien attack. We're going to get the sort of news network mashup to show us what's going on. Get the farting aliens, which I'm kind of like, yeah, okay, fart jokes has never really been my thing. So I didn't love those episodes. But like you look at like Christmas Invasion, you look at probably can't think off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's some in series 2 and 3 as well, where we get those sorts of alien attacks on London, where I'm like, it's very repetitive after a while. But yeah. I think as you say, on the whole, like there's no episode this season where I was like, oh, do we really have to get through this one? Which I think there are a couple like that in the next season. But yeah, look, great season on the whole. I guess just before we wrap up, we can talk about the finale, the parting of the ways, and Christopher Ecclestone's departure from the show, which we've already sort of touched on. I guess in terms of regenerations, in terms of reasons for regenerations, how did you feel the show handled that final episode, and how did you enjoy it?
As I said to you while we were watching it, I don't understand. This is my issue as to why did the Doctor have to regenerate? Because Rose had all the time vortex energy in her for a lengthy period of time, but then the Doctor took it for a very short amount of time, and he ended up regenerating. So, like, did he also take, I guess,
Lo, it's a really simple answer. I can't believe that you didn't pick it up while we're watching it. The answer is because reasons.
Okay. So you're actually going to give me a legitimate reason. Mate, don't blindside me here.
Mansplaining to you. No. Yeah, it's a very much like he's got in so many of the regenerations, you're right. Like it's always, the Doctor fell off a tower. He's got to regenerate, even though I'm sure there's plenty of other stories where he falls and doesn't have to regenerate.
I'm sure someone's going to comment and say that no, because when he kissed her, he took on all the injuries she had as well, which would make sense. And if you know that is the case, please tell me, because that would make more sense to me. But that was annoying me, because I also, after watching or binging this series, I just wasn't ready to let go of Ecclestone. I do think he's such a good Doctor, and I was like, I love David Tennant. Like, I will be the first to put my hand up and say, yes, obsessed. But there's just something so special about Ecclestone.
He's got that darker side or darker edge than even Tennant. Tennant has it a bit, and so does Smith and Capaldi to an extent as well. But Ecclestone really, like we're saying, like he really balances that really like grim sort of seriousness with then at a snap he can just be really chirpy and cheerful and funny and good balance. Question that I have for you: which act of Rose's Bad Wolf have you enjoyed more the impact of? Her making Captain Jack immortal, meaning that we've got John Barrowman over a number of different seasons of Doctor Who, or the fact that it gave us David Tennant?
Oof. I don't know, because I'd hope that even if Ecclestone did sign up to do a second series, that they would get David Tennant eventually anyway, because we know that he's also a Doctor Who fanboy. So much so that he married the fifth Doctor's daughter.
It's a little bit
So
weird, but you know.
it's like the ultimate fanboy move. I do have
And I'm
respect for
pretty
him for
sure
that.
I'm pretty sure she went to school with Colin Baker's daughter. So
Okay, it's
she's
getting too
very
much
much she's very much surrounded by the Doctor.
But I don't know. I do really enjoy Captain Jack, and that gave us Torchwood as well. And I
It was
can't
a really
answer
cool
that question, Alex.
Yeah.
I do enjoy David Tennant. I would have loved a second season of Eccleston and hoped that Tennant would have signed on anyway later on. But I mean, because he signed on for such a lengthy period anyway, like he has a long run as the Doctor. Surely an extra year of pushing it back would have been fine. He still would have signed up for it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was going to say something about Jack, and now I think I've forgotten what I was going to say.
Sorry.
But no, that's okay. Yeah, look, I think. Oh no, well, I was going to say it's a really interesting thing that they did with Jack, with bringing him back and making him immortal, which I don't think we find out really until series 3 / I don't know if Torchwood started before he turned up in series 3, but I think it was really interesting to make this character who's not really going to be on your show like full time this more central character. And you know, as we're watching Classic Who, I sort of made the comparison to Sabalong Glitz, because along with him and Syl, who's more of a villain than a friend, there's not. Oh, I get obviously. I mean, the Brigadier's the big one, but there's not many sort of recurring companions that aren't actively traveling with the Doctor in Classic Who.
Yeah.
So it's cool that they sort of bring it up in modern Who.
Yes. I think it's nice to have that kind of companion. You can, not like companion, but friend of, that you can check in with, and have like those plot points with. And the fact that they're still using him in the current series is great as well.
Yeah,
I'd love to see more of Jack.
absolutely. Well, I mean, as we discussed in our review of Revelation of the Daleks, hopefully there's the potential that we'll get another series of Torchwood, so we could get a lot more Jack. Maybe. Be interesting. Okay, well, just before we sign off then, I wonder if you're able to give this series a rating out of 10.
No, I don't like doing this.
I know, that's why I do it.
No, I don't like numbers. I've said that I really enjoyed it, and that is one of my favorite series, and I would happily sit down and rewatch it again. So take of that what you will. And you assign a number to it, and I'll tell you if I agree or not.
I will give it the rather appropriate 9 out of 10.
Haha. So you're going to give 10 seasons a 10 out of 10?
Well, probably depending on which season we're watching, maybe. But no, I think genuinely, I think 9 out of 10, because I think there's no bad, as we said, there's no bad episodes. I'd happily rewatch any of the episodes in this season. I think it just misses the 10 because there's no amazing episode. So when I say amazing, like I'm thinking like The Doctor's Wife, or maybe Blink, even though I think that's a little bit overrated. There's no episode where I'm just like, wow, this is like top 5 of all time.
I feel like The Empty Child and Dr. Dances are that. Yeah. They're like, that's the iconic episodes of this.
That's true. Maybe I'll give it 9.5 then.
No, just saying with your, we don't have a, I was like, hang on, yes we do.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
Gosh, even the End of the World episode, which that's another great episode which we haven't talked about, where we first get introduced to Lady Cassandra Then we have trees and Platform 1 and all the alien guests. That was another great episode, but I'm not going to talk about it because we are wrapping this up. So yes, they're all,
Look, I think
all good. The whole series
yeah.
is good. There's one or two episodes that are a bit blur, but the rest, like overall, good.
Absolutely, it very much holds up.
Fantastic.
Yes, and it certainly holds up for a rewatch. So if you haven't rewatched this series in a few years, we would certainly recommend giving it another go, because it was a fantastic rewatch and a fantastic time. And It's been a fantastic episode with you, Loz. So thank you for joining me.
That's all right. Thank you for hosting.
No problem. And thank you everyone for listening in. If you haven't already, hit subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram. The descriptions for those channels are in the description below. And we will see you next time. We'll be doing our weekly reviews for WandaVision. A new episode will be out this coming weekend.
Yeah,
and then we'll be back.
A bit of a break from that.
Yeah,
so
we just had to recover from the twist at the end of the last episode.
Yes, we're reviewing 2 episodes this week. So last week's, and then the new episode that comes out on Friday. Yeah.
And probably back reviewing series 2 of Doctor Who before too long, at the rate that we're getting through it. Yeah, definitely.
There'll be another binge.
Absolutely. So until then, thank you all for listening in, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.